Like, it's not about friendship. It's not really about her family that much. It's about...
Actually...
Hey y'all, it's Alma again, your ex-film school bunny and gremlin menace. And as always, Bingsu says hello. Continuing my trend of talking about movies far past their expiration date, I wanted to talk about Wish. I first thought of this channel when I saw this movie, and 9 months later, here we are. There are many, many people who have done extensive reviews and covered the movie from head to toe with hundreds of takes. I don't think I have anything to add to the conversation in the form of a review, but throughout all the videos I watched, I was surprised nobody brought up something that hit me when I saw the film. I am not going to dogpile on this movie, and this is not an attack on anybody or studio who worked hard on it.
Boo! Don't like it. But
A look into a fascinating allegory between Wish and current events.
Okie dokie.
This is different from my previous review or script doctoring of a movie where I won't be talking about the plot but making an argument for comparison. There were two things that got me thinking. Number one, Don't Worry Darling, by Olivia Wilde, who has come on record to say that Chris Pine's character, Frank, was based off of Jordan Peterson. And similar to that in the recent 2024, James McAvoy described his character in the new Speak No Evil to Andrew Tate. I just wanted to add a note to be clear, because James came out to say his character was like Andrew Tate, but in no way was supposed to be a straw man or stand-in for him, like Chris in Darling. I'm sorry, I'm just amused by this. I'll give an example. If I was playing Hannibal Lecter and I was in the press tour and had to compare my role to a real-life villain, I would say like Ed Gein, who stretched human skin into lampshades, or like Jeffrey Dahmer. What I wouldn't say is that my character is so psychotic, he's just like Shia LaBeouf. Fighting for your life with Shia LaBeouf. Wrestling a knife with Shia LaBeouf. Anyways, number two, there were some good videos that asked, was Wish written by AI? And while those were great critiques, and that comment was probably made in jest, I wanted to politely disagree with that and say that, to me, it feels like the most human product the studio has made, because it wasn't written like a story or plot, but like a self-affirmation or a cry for help of the people who worked at the studio. With those 2 points said, Wish is about John Lasseter. Specifically, King Magnifico is embodiment of both Walt Disney and John Lasseter.
Purple.
Poor Chris. He keeps getting these roles that are direct comparisons to media's villains. If he got a nickel every time this happens,
I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
I'm going to go through the film bit by bit, explaining my thought process and why I feel this is the real story behind Wish. I have a few colleagues who are interns at Walt Disney Animation, but understand that I do not know any inside information on the studio, experiences, or knowledge of the people behind this film. The story starts off with a recreation of the classic storybook page turners that fashion King Magnifico out to be like Walt Disney, a shepherd of dreams who wants to build a magnificent kingdom where everyone is welcome and can make a wish.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land.
It's a pretty obvious metaphor out the gate, and it continues with Asha. She starts the film as a tour guide for the Kingdom of Rosas. But to put it bluntly, this comparison is one of the most loosely disguised aspects of the film. She is a cast member, and Rosas is her Disneyland. She is quite a fangirl of the park, and she knows all about it. Couldn't have been more on the nose with this one. Specifically, she is what you would call a plaid at Disneyland. They are tour guides that parade around celebrities or people who pay way too much money, and they look at all of you while they cut the line like,
"Ew, poor! Ew, poor! Ew, poor! Ew, poor!"
She talks to her grandpa about fulfilling his wish on his 100th birthday. His 100th birthday coincides as an obvious allegory to Disney Studios' 100th anniversary. But I don't think Sabino personifies the company. Instead, I believe the magic in Rosas does that. Sabino could represent the old guard, and Asha could represent the incoming new generation of Disney animators. Not from the movie, but the most convincing evidence is from their 100th anniversary Once Upon a Studio short, with the only 2 human characters with speaking roles in it. Now for the wish itself. There are many reads into this 100th wish, but I will get into that in a little bit. First, I wanted to talk about Asha seeking apprenticeship with King Magnifico. Meeting with King Magnifico is a pretty easy read as well. They threw around corporate terms like interview, apprenticeship, and hire while also conducting mock recruiter questionnaires. I see this as a metaphor for Asha wanting to leave Disneyland to join the animation studios.
Barely people, somehow legal, unpaid intern.
She wants to join the studio and learn to create magic, which in Disney corporate terms means making a Disney film. Asha asks King Magnifico if he would grant Sabino's wish for his 100th. Or, in my read, Asha asks Lasseter to greenlight Sabino's movie. Magnifico says usually people work for him longer before asking for a wish/movie. He hears her out and then checks out the wish/movie idea and says it's dangerous, or that it sucks.
Well, you're young, you don't know anything, really. Whereas it is my responsibility to only grant the wishes I am sure are good for Rosas.
From what I understand about the Disney process is that you work at the studio and get senior enough to be allowed to pitch to Lasseter, and if he likes it enough, you may be offered workshopping sessions or apprenticeship with him to work through several iterations before getting your movie greenlit. Now, from what I read, there were also people who came to him and pitched, and were immediately rejected. It seemed like the whole thing was a bit of whiplash.
Listen up, suckers. Hurry the up. Get your music.
He demanded perfectionism, and while he can be warm and father-like, he can also be egotistical, blunt, and sharp with his feedback. I had the same experience with one of my professors in college. She was a highly accomplished television screenwriter, and I wanted to be her. She would make me redo my outline for my TV episode week after week, and I wouldn't be allowed to write any actual pages of the script until the outline was perfect. She eventually greenlit it a week before finals. And she reamed me hard for the rushed work, and I cried from all the pages of harsh feedback.
You are a worthless, friendless, lip little piece of shit whose mommy left daddy.
I still respect her, though, and I can see this as a similar relationship animators had with Lasseter. Back to the movie, a lot of people in YouTube rightly asked why King Magnifico could only grant one wish per year. That is because we were thinking about it mechanically within the world, and it makes no sense. But if we think of it allegorically, it further supports the comparison that wishes our movies greenlit by Lasseter, because we usually get one animated feature from Pixar or Disney a year. I looked online to try to find some well-documented beef Lasseter had with people, and there is a lot of rumors or hearsay that I can't corroborate as actual employees or evidence, but I did see that he trashed one or more of Tangled storylines, and that Neil Gaiman and him had creative differences. I was looking for something like Ike Perlmutter and Kevin Feige, who publicly squared up over having women or people of color as leads. If you know of any good examples, I would love for you to comment it below. This is when Asha wishes upon a star, and it comes to life as this anthropomorphic being. Star here may represent hope, or change, or progressivism in this story. I don't see it representing a person or organization. We know King Magnifico is scared of it and threatens his rule, so it seems pretty on the nose for it to embody the idea of a new era that the old guy/boomer is scared of. Because of this, though, Star is kind of not really all that important in the story, as it functions more of a concept or idea and little bit less of a participating character. This might have been different if they went with that Starboy concept art they had that everyone, including myself, loves. Can we also take a moment here to marvel at this piece of evidence of how little they wanted to disguise real-life elements of the movie with fantasy in this song? And then there is the song Knowing What I Know Now. I wasn't going to go into any allegations with Lasseter, but I will briefly point out that this song is directly addressing that and the employees' attitude toward him after it dropped. It is activism, the song, and it had to be mentioned. Anyways, Simon betrays Asha by reporting to the king critical information about her plans, and he is rewarded for it. This was probably something that happened in the studio. Like some guy didn't feel like getting with the change, or was a Lasseter fanboy, or wanted a promotion and reported all the things going on in the ranks to Lasseter. This happens all the time in corporate settings and isn't just isolated to Disney animation. In the climax of the film, the king tries to subjugate all the citizens once this rebellion goes full company-wide, and instead of taking it or staying silent, they all raise their voices and the feedback defeats him, and he loses his power. I don't think I need to really explain this part. as once again mechanically makes no sense in the world building, but allegorically is obvious. So then Sabino's 100th birthday wish is this movie. A song/movie that inspires the next generation as stated in the script itself. A movie that is not really all that concerned with honoring the last 100 years, as it is setting up what the next 100 is going to be. People have called out that this in no way honors the legacy of the studio. And they're right, because it was a story about the transformation the studio was going through during the time period of leading up to the 100th anniversary. Oh, I almost forgot to bring up Queen Amaya. She is Jennifer Lee, the new current sitting head of Walt Disney Animation Studios, replacing Lasseter. Queen Amaya is now the ruler of Rosas after locking up Magnifico. She was never married to or had a romantic affiliation with Lasseter, but she represented the other ruling half of the studio since Frozen. She is head of story or executive producer on everything, all the way up to becoming chief creative officer after Lasseter was ousted. I see this as the reason why we didn't get the evil power couple in the concept art, and instead turned Queen Amaya into a good character. Anyways, this has been therapeutic to get off my chest. If you stayed this long, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Subscribe for a carrot, and if you enjoyed it, please leave a like, or if you hated it, leave a dislike. Either way, you are appreciated. Buns out.
Go back to your dorm, and since you can't afford a mortgage, you're just touring a porn